Well, hello there, I'm Détroit. If you've never seen me before, I am an artist and storyteller. Since I started on YouTube, I have made close to 80 drawing videos on the Détroit Variety channel. This channel is all about learning and sharing my journey getting better about my craft. For this video, I want to share with you what I have learned since I started in terms of video editing. To follow the entire step-by-step process, you will need these softwares, or any equivalent of your choosing. A text editor, Audacity for audio recording, Adobe Premiere Pro, and Adobe Photoshop. It isn't necessary, but I like to have Photoshop at hand. You will also need to subscribe to this channel and like this video. Right, the first step of making a drawing video for YouTube is of course the drawing. I will assume you have already done that part and film yourself. I will be using this digital drawing I made recently. Depending on your approach to drawing videos, some of these steps might be unnecessary for you, but I will cover all the bases for a simple but exhaustive process. The next step I usually take is writing my script. Before I make audio commentaries on top of my drawing videos, I like to write out a script using a text editor. I am more comfortable speaking into a microphone if I have almost my entire script written out already. What I also like to do is to add notes on my script for editing ideas I might have. For that, as you can see, I add parentheses. Then it's a simple matter of recording and cutting your audio commentary. I recommend doing that before editing your video, because then you will have a good idea of the length of your sped up footage. More on that in a second. Let me open Audacity. I'm going to assume that you already have your audio recording software set up properly and your microphone placement already good. A quick tip I can give you is to place yourself in a quiet environment. Don't stand right in front of a wall to avoid reverberation and noise. Another quick tip is to put the microphone a bit to your side, pointing at your mouth, so that you don't breathe directly into it, even with a pop filter. Alright, now that the entire audio is recorded, it's time to tweak and trim. First of all, I like to record about 5 seconds of silence before speaking. After I'm done recording, I use these 5 seconds to find the noise background and apply a noise reduction filter over the entire track. Now that you have good quality audio, it's time to cut out all the silences and mistakes you might have made during the recording. Keep the best take for every sentence. I would recommend not cutting too much silence though. It depends on the pace you want to give your video, but sometimes you can allow a second of silence here and there, so that it's easier for the viewer to follow. Note that you can do all of that in Premiere Pro as well, but I find it faster and much easier in Audacity. Once your audio is all good and you're satisfied with it, export it into a .wav file into your video folder. Finally, we're getting to the interesting part of this tutorial. Let's open up Premiere Pro. While it's loading, I want to apologize because my interface is in French. I tried to change it for this tutorial, but Adobe clearly doesn't make it simple to do, and I don't want to have to reinstall everything. You'll be fine though. Everything from the interface that is important is in the same place and easy to find. And if you have any questions, please ask them in the comments and I'll gladly help you out. I like to start my sequence by dropping in something that is of the right size and FPS. Most often I use my already pre-made intro animation. This ensures that my video is always 1080p and 29 frames per second. Everything else, every piece of footage, will be confirmed by the sequence accordingly. Now is the time to drop all your footage on the timeline at the bottom. If you have multiple angles for the same drawing, put them vertically on top of each other and make them coincide so that you can freely alternate between them at your convenience and for the enjoyment of your viewers. Here I only have a single screen recording, so I'll just put it here. Actually, I have 2 pieces of footage that will go one after the other. Once they are put together, I add them to a single sequence by clicking right and combining them into one nested sequence. This way, both of them have become a single object and I'll be able to speed them up as one afterwards. Below the video, drop the audio you just recorded. The first thing I then do is put my intro in the right place, after the hook and before the main part of the video. I use the razor blade symbol to cut the audio track right after the end of the intro, as well as at the end before I show the complete drawing. This will set up the boundaries of the sped up drawing video. Now that it's done, it's much easier to put the video beginning in the right place. Note the length of the audio portion. You can see it easily by putting your mouse over it without moving for a second. Then you right-click the video, go to the time and speed settings, and enter manually the same length. And boom! That's the most important part of the whole process. Now you basically have your speed drawing video. But we're not stopping there. Next thing you want to do with your editing is focusing on the intro and the outro. Sometimes I like to make a specific intro for a video, like a short animation or something else. When I don't, I take the first few seconds of the sped up footage and put it before the animated logo sequence. Then you can just readjust the length of a bigger portion to fit the audio. For the outro to the video, I always use the same end-card screen. Depending on my audio commentary, I'll put it right at the end of the track, or I'll speak over it for a few seconds. It is always a nice touch to add your finished drawing to your video, right after your sped up process. Just drop a PNG file onto your timeline at the end of the video process. Simply extend it to the right length. You can also make it coincide with your call to action, more on that in a second. A drawing video is not always the most entertaining thing to watch. Most of the time, you have to make it entertaining with your edit. But remember, the best edit will be the one that works well without even being noticed by the viewer. There are two things that are really easy to do and that always work within reason. A very slow zoom and a fade to black as a transition. Click your finished drawing from the timeline and go to the effect box over there. Drag the smaller timeline position all the way to the left and click the clock on the scale item in the list. Then drag the position selection all the way to the right and click the small dot between these arrows. Now you have two positions you can switch between like this. On the first position, make sure your full drawing is visible. On the last position, however, zoom in a little bit. Just a little bit. Maybe add 1 to 5 points. No more than that. Now your drawing will slowly zoom in. It's that easy and it's so much nicer to watch. The same principle can apply to any part of your drawing video, really. Steady shots are often boring, so spice it up with the tiniest zoom. They will go unnoticed, but they do make the difference. Now for the fade to black. There are pre-made effects for that, but I like to control the timing of the fade by hand. I usually put a fade at the end of the intro, the main drawing footage, and the finished drawing. Same as with the zoom earlier, this time click on the opacity item in your effect box. Put a marker on the last moment you want your image to be fully there, and another marker at the end. I like the transition to be only over a couple of frames, so I'll put it almost right at the end. Make sure the first marker is set at 100% opacity and the second one at 0%. And there you have it. The second most important editing trick. Notice that I haven't used any of the packaged effects that exist in Premiere Pro. This is the most simple tutorial you can follow, and honestly, sometimes simpler is better, especially if you want to focus on more relaxing videos instead of really fast cut and zoom edits like for most vlogs and gaming montage. Next quick step in my editing process, we're going to apply the same principle as the zoom and the fade to black, but with translations. Drop in a PNG of a subscribe button, for example, right when you are saying the word subscribe in your commentary. Place it where you want it to show on screen, and now you want to use the first item of the effect box, the X and Y axis. Then you just have to do the same as the opacity earlier, but both at the beginning and at the end of your PNG. In total, you should have 4 markers. The first frame, a few frames after that, a few frames before the end, and the last frame. Quite simply, you want to modify the two extremes so that your PNG is out of the screen. I want to mix it up, so here I'll have it pop up from the bottom and leave out the left side. It's also a fun way to add memes and still images to your video, or even text, or anything really. Honestly, if you know how to do a simple time movement, an opacity change and a timed zoom, your editing skills are already on the level you need for a good drawing video. Last important bit you want for your editing is music. Unless you're intentionally going for that vibe, you don't want your video to be just a voice. Even if it's barely audible, you want to add music to it. Now, because this is YouTube, obviously you can't use copyrighted music, unless you own the rights to it. But it's okay, there are plenty of really nice and talented artists who produce non-copyrighted songs. Once you have the music downloaded, drop it on your timeline, right below your audio commentary track. As you can see, the length is completely off. The music is much shorter than it needs to be. If that happens, don't worry. Here's a good tip. You see the shape of the sound here? There are big parts and smaller parts. You simply need to find the first beat of the first big part and the first beat of the last part. cut the audio track between these two and just copy and paste it so that it keeps going forever. You just need to make sure that the beats are synced at the cut though. Now you can turn all of the cuts into one single sequence, much like I did with my video footage at the beginning, by nesting them. I like the first beat after the music's intro to be in sync with my animated logo, so I'll drag the whole thing just to make it coincide. Now you may have noticed that the audio is way too loud compared to your voice. Do you see the horizontal line in the middle that just appeared? You can drag it up and down to adjust the audio level. This adjusts the audio track as a whole, but how about when I'm not speaking and I want the music to be slightly louder? I'm glad you asked. Now I'm using the tool that looks like a fountain pen nib. During my hook, before my animated logo, I want the music to slowly rise. Then I want it to be loud during the silent animation, then quiet again when I start speaking. For that, I'm going to click near the beginning of the track, right at the beginning of the intro, then right at the end, and finally a few seconds after my commentary resumes. Now, as you can see, I can move all the dots individually up and down and to the sides. With that, I'll adjust the audio level on the entire thing. Because I haven't touched the largest part of the audio track at all, the one along the drawing process, the audio level is going to stay the same throughout. Then, right at the beginning and during my parting words, I'll change the level slightly again to signify, for example, the end of the video during the end card. Now that all this is done, go on and watch your video. Make some adjustments if you feel like you need to. Then you simply have to export it. Is everything okay this far? Because that's it. I mean, that's the entire drawing video making process. If you have any doubts or questions regarding the editing, the interface, or anything really, ask them in the comments and I'll help you out. This is exactly the kind of video I would have liked to find when I started making drawing videos for YouTube. So my hope is that it will help you just like I would have wanted to be helped. Normally I don't do a lot of tutorials, but you can still subscribe to my channel. I upload drawing videos every Thursdays and Sundays, and I'd love to have you on board for that. That was Détroit, and as always, I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye!